So today Dr. Sahab had brought an ayat for us to read and understand. This ayat is one ayat after the Ayah Nur. We all remember Ayah Nur 24:35. सूर्य का नाम भी सूरह नूर है और आयत का नाम भी आया नूर है. और उसके बाद नंबर 36 के अंदर डॉक्टर साहब ने जो जैसा हम पढ़ेंगे उसके अंदर वो पूछेंगे.
So should we read with Ayah Nur first? So we review and then go to next one?
So we're going to not only read Ayah Nur, we will explain the Ayah Nur because it is a connection from Ayah Nur to the next ayat. जी.
अल्लाह आसमानों और ज़मीन का नूर है. उसके नूर की मिसाल ऐसी है जैसे एक ताक में चिराग रखा हुआ हो. चिराग एक फानूस में हो. फानूस का हाल ये हो कि जैसे मोती की तरह चमकता हुआ तारा, और वो चिराग जैतून के एक ऐसे मुबारक दरख्त के तेल से रोशन किया जाता हो जो न शर्की हो न गरबी, जिसका तेल आप ही आप भड़का पड़ता हो, चाहे आग उसको ना छुए. नूरुन अल्लाह नूर. अल्लाह अपने नूर की तरफ जिसकी चाहता है रहनुमाई फरमाता है. वो लोगों को मिसालों से समझाता है. वो हर चीज़ से खूब वाकिफ़ है. उन घरों में पाए जाते हैं जिन्हें बुलंद करने का और जिनमें अपने नाम की याद का अल्लाह ने इज़्न दिया है. उनमें ऐसे लोग सुबह शाम उसकी तस्बीह करते हैं.
24 and 35 and 36. Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth. The similitude of His light is as a niche, whereas is a lamp. The lamp is in a glass. The glass is, as it were, a shining star, kindled from a blessed tree, an olive, neither of the east nor of the west, whose oil would almost glow forth, though no fire touched it. Light upon light. Allah guided unto His light whom He will, and Allah set it forth for mankind similitudes, and Allah is knower of all things. In houses which Allah hath allowed to be exalted, and that His name shall be remembered therein. Therein do offer praise to Him at morn and evening.
हम तमाम जानते हैं कि आया नूर वो आयत है जिसको इमाम ज़मान had given us during the Golden Jubilee, with the saying that if you wanted to recognize me, take this ayah Nur, along with Hadith al-Saqlain, and if you understand this ayat and if you understand this hadith, then you will recognize me. And the question that comes into our mind is, do we not recognize the Imam of the time after 50 years of Imamat? Because this was at the time of Golden Jubilee. Similarly, Sultan Muhammad Shah, may our soul be sacrificed to their Imam, in his memoirs bring readers' attention to this ayat. And in one of the conference, Mullah Baba, in his present Jama, says that if Muslims gather around Ayah Nur and understand and come to a consensus in this one single ayah, the understanding, then they will not be aparted from each other in the religion. They will be in one single platform. This is the ayah he's talking about. So we have repeatedly have explained the ayah Nur, but there is never enough. So I think we shall look at this ayah Nur once again. So we may understand the following ayat the Dr. Sahib has question on. So if we look at the ayat Nur, number 1, so we're going to break it down. Allah is the light of the heaven and the earth. Allah is the Nur of the heavens and the earth. How do we understand He is the light of the heavens and the earth? Are we talking about the sun or the moon? What kind of light? Which Nur is He talking about? When He says, I am the light of the heaven and the earth. There is no life without the light. There is no life without the light. Without the Nur of Allah, nothing exists in the heaven and the earth and everything in between. And inshallah today we will also talk about heaven and hell. So we will have more understanding of the heaven and the earth, inshallah. The keys or the principle of the Quran, if somebody was writing all the keys every time they come to the Sunday class, I will assure you, you will have a book full of keys. You will never would have to wake up Sunday morning this early. You can apply those principles to the Quran and you will be able to understand the Quran yourself. But you would have to start writing down those keys so you may understand. Some of the keys, if you guys remember, we had talked about the water, knowledge, the dirt, mu'min, the mountain, akal, intellect, horse, ismi azam, chopaye, the four-legged animal, udud ad-din. And so today we have 2 new keys to understand our tariqah. Wherever you see word heavens, normally our mind goes toward a place, a heaven, कि जो कोई जगह है, there's a place somewhere in the sky. And whenever we think of earth, we think of this earth, the land that we live in. The principle of Quran is heaven is the higher ranking mu'mineen and the earth is the mu'mineen next ranking. Why do I say next rank, not all the way down to the bottom of it? If you remember the vocabulary I was using a minute ago when I said Allah is the Nur or the light of the heavens and the earth and everything in between. So where this in between comes from? Meaning there are a lot of heavens. You see the heavens? Not one. And then it talks about absolute earth in singular term. When you read Quran, you need that eye and see what is in plural and what is in singular. So let's talk about this for just for a second, and then we will talk about it more in our heaven and hell concept. Heavens, all the higher ranking mu'mineen are heavens, and each one of them are earth for the one above it. So let's say there are 7 heavens, just for our learning. 7 heavens. So the one on the 6th will be the earth for the heaven above and the heaven for the one underneath. And this earth over here is the absolute mu'min, meaning having no ranks. How many of you guys know the ranking in our tariqah or in Islam? What are the rankings? We had talked about Pleno Jamaatana and the 9 pillars, if you guys remember, and some of you guys were not here. So I would recommend receive that lecture and understand the ranking in Islam and in our tariqah. And that will explain this heavens and the earth. Alright? the similitude of his light is, now he's just giving us an example. His light is in a niche wherein is a lamp. In our old homes, and even today in some homes, you will find that placed higher above the wall with a small खोखला बोलते हैं हम लोग उसको, छोटी सी जगह होती है जहाँ पर वो दिया रखते हैं.
Hollow place.
You know? So it would be something like this, but not as big as this. Just a very small place to keep a lamp. I don't know if you guys ever remember old homes, they would have that before we had electric. Example of my nur is like a niche where there is a lamp. Inside the home, in a higher place, there is a place where there is a lamp. And that is the example of my nur. Allah, shouldn't we have his example as a nur with the sun, which is the greatest source of light? Why not sun? Why just a lamp? Mind-boggling, right? It should, when we think of Allah, we think of Him as the most greatest thing of all. But when He's giving the example of His nur, He's not using the greatest source of light, the sun, but He's using not only a lamp, but a very small lamp sitting in a niche. That's it. That's the example He's using. And we will see why. We will understand why in a second. The lamp is in a glass. Sometimes we have to think, when Allah is giving an example, He goes into so much detail. He could have just said a lamp, that is example of my nur, and we would have understood. But He said no. This lamp is in a glass. There is something surrounding this lamp. Something is protecting this lamp. And He is giving an example of that lamp or the glass on top of the lamp. Detail. And we will see why He's giving this detail, okay? In the glass. The glass is, as it were, a shining star. Now, example of the glass is like a twinkling star. यहाँ पर अरबिक का जो वर्ड है कोकब, twinkling, shining, sparkling star. You see the detail? Could it not be just a star? Why it has to be shiny, sparkling star? He is giving us detail of His nur, so we may understand. Remember, He's trying to make us understand the example of His nur. Alright? And we will see why we are talking about all of this. Kindle from a blessed tree, an olive tree. I'm going to stop right here. Olive tree. Again, He could have said just kindle from a blessed tree. That would be enough. No. Has to be olive tree. Has to be olive tree. And we will see why. Okay? Neither of the east nor of the west. Now this amazing tree is not of the east nor of the west. So where is this tree? What is he talking about? Whose oil would almost glow forth, even if there is no fire touches it. The amazing thing about this oil, it's just light itself. Even if there's no other light touches it. That's the amazing part of this one. Alright? And we will see how it does it. We will take some examples. This is the key word the Mulaba was referring to, right here.
Light upon
This part, right here. That's it. Nuran ala nur. Mullah said, if you understand this ayat, you will recognize me. Out of the entire ayat, This is the key word, underlined word. If you had a Quran, I would ask you to highlight it. So whenever you open your Quran, whenever you open Surah Nur, whenever you look at the Ayah Misbah, you will come to this one single place, highlighted, underlined. Nuran Allah Nur. The Nur on the top of the Nur. Or Nur after Nur. And we will see how is it Nur on top of the Nur and Nur upon Nur or Nur after the Nur. We will see that in a minute. Allah guide unto His Nur whomever He wills. Whomever He wills, He will guide to that Nur. And Allah speaks to mankind in allegories. So now Allah is saying, everything I'm telling you, you understand, right? This is just an examples and allegories. And Allah is knower of all things. So let's understand this ayah Nur again. Allah is the Nur, or Allah's Nur is in the higher ranking mu'mineen, heavens, and the lower ranking mu'mineen, the mustajib. And when you listen to the other lecture, you will understand what those terms means. Allah is saying, my Nur is in people. Which people? Who are the higher ranking like heavens and the lower ranking like mu'mineens. In our generic term, when we say mu'min, we always think of, oh, he's a mu'min. We place them here. And look at the vocabulary I'm using. Higher ranking people and the mu'mineens. Mu'min is a generic term. Whoever does good deed, we call them mu'min. He doesn't even have to be smiley for us to call him mu'min. And somebody at your work, or somebody at your school, or somebody on the street who helps you change your tire, he says, kitna mu'min aadmi hai. Someone who does good deed is a mu'min. So, mu'min has no rank until he says one thing. I don't know anything and I'm ready to take the knowledge. Until this magic word, the mu'min stays mu'min. Without any rank. Meaning, he is not part of this ayat. Do we understand this? A mu'min, a good deed person, a person who's doing a lot of good deeds, until he utters those magic words by saying, I don't know anything, I'm ready to learn. All of a sudden, he's part of higher ranking mu'mineen, he's part of this ayat, he's part of pleno jamasana. So the example we had used in the lecture from pleno jamasana, in pleno jamasana there are two kind of people, two kind of mu'mineens. One who's sitting in the jamasana, and one who are the pillar of the jamasanas. There are two kind of mu'mineens. Okay, this is just an example. So you can say, what about the mid-city jamasana or the other jamasana? This is just an example. The mu'mineens who are just sitting there, and mu'mineens who are the pillar of the jamasana. And those are the 9 pillars that we see in pleno jamasana. Okay. So Allah's Nur is in higher and lower ranking both mu'mineens. The similitude of His light is like a niche. यहाँ पर पहले हम उस जगह को याद करें कि जो higher है. Something that is visible, safe, and in higher level. यानी कि इन मोमिनीन का जो नूर है, the light of this नूर is visible, is in higher rank, higher place within the home. लेट्स से कि हमारा घर जो है वो जमात खाना है. So these are the mu'minin who's giving the light to their home, which is our jamaat khana. Let's say this house is the city. Then this is the mu'min who's giving the light to their city, because he is on the higher place. नीच कभी भी नीचे नहीं होता है. It's always in the wall, in the higher place. Do we? Everybody knows what niche is. If not, then we may not be able to understand this. Okay. Now उसके ऊपर एक glass लगा हुआ है. If you think of our old time, there will always be glass on top of the lamp.
Like lantern, right?
Yeah.
So what was the glass used for?
To save from the wind.
To protect the light.
Protect the lamp from the wind. Right? Do we remember that ayah that we were discussing a few weeks back? That there are some people who's trying to blow away Allah's nur with their mouth wind. False argument. Do we remember that? Okay. Same example here. So Allah said, I am protecting that light with the glass. Glass kaun hai? If the house is living people, higher ranking, heavens is the living people higher ranking, the earth is living people low ranking. If the niche is like a house in a Jamaat Khana, and the lamp is a nur, then the glass has to be a living being. So who are the glass? It says right there. जैसा कहा कि Allah is giving us detail for a reason so we may understand. It's like a twinkling star. ये वो मोमिनीन है जिसको हमारे दाइयों और पीरों ने कहा कि they are the dais themselves. They are the dais who protect the Jamaat and the Mu'mineen's nur by becoming a shield for them. An invisible shield, because it says glass. So you can see through it, but still nobody can blow their nur. So they are like a twinkling stars. They are our dais who are protecting us from the wind, from the false arguments. And within our Jamaat, there are people who in Imam's farmans and Imam's word have actually become dai. What does it mean actually become dai? Not potentially. When Imam gives us the title of the dai, he's praying for us that you may become a dai. So you are potentially a dai, and then when Jamaat works hard, they become actual dai. Meaning, they have followed the farman, and by following the farman of the Imam, they have become what Imam had wished for them to become, which was to become actual dai. We are talking about those dais. They are the glass over the nur of the Mu'mineens. Now, Allah has kindled this lamp with a tree, an olive tree. Why olive tree? Why can it not be any other tree?
It's the most pure form.
Whenever we think of olive, what do we say?
Virgin oil.
Virgin oil.
It's a good oil.
Untouched.
It's pure.
That's what it means. Pure, untouched oil. Allah saying the nur can only be lit with a pure, untouched supply of the oil. What is the supply of the oil? Huh?
Tree.
Okay. Tree, if you want to write down the principle of the tree in Quran, tree is equal to Imam. If you want to read about that, final ayah says that this is the tree that gives fruit all year round. Its roots is in the earth and the top branch in the heavens.
Yep.
Have you ever seen a tree like that? कभी देखा है ऐसा दरख्त कि जो जमीन के ऊपर उसकी रूट हो और उसकी ब्रांचेस आसमान तक जाती हो और जो 12 महीने फ्रूट देता हो? Have you ever seen a tree like that? Tree is an example of an imam. So this oil is from the purest, untouched nur of the imam. Read up to this point. Allah will kindle your lamp, your nur, with the pure tree of the imam. You see why Allah is going in so much detail? And do you see why Imam has given us this ayat? And what he said? If you understand. If you understand, because normally we don't understand. Now, this tree is neither of the east or the west. Imam एक ऐसा शख्सियत है जिसको हम नहीं कह सकते हैं कि ये हमारा है, ये तुम्हारा है. Is neither of the east nor of the west. Imam के लिए, if you go into the Quran, you will find Imamul Nas, Imam for all people. Does not matter if they are Somali, Muslim, atheist, doesn't matter. Imam is for all people. Imamul Nas. The second term you will find Imamul Muttaqin, Imam of the purest, the believers. So Imam works on two different levels. Question. At the level of Imamul Nas, where is the Imam of all the people? When he gives his farman, who does he give his farman to? People, Imamul Muttaqin के लेवल पर जो होता है, यानी कि जो बिलीवर होते हैं उसको वो फरमान देता है अपना. Another example. If Barkat buys home over here, and if you wanted to have Michelle chai or donut, you will say, Beta, aja chai pee le. But when time comes for him to give his property and his inheritance, then when he says, Beta, I'm going to give you everything I have, who is he referring to? His own daughter. Even though he had called her Beta. Do we see that? Just like that, when Imamul, at the level of Imamul Nas, to Imam, all the people are his children. But when it comes for inheritance, the Farman, the Ismi Azam, the treasure of his knowledge, who does he give to? His spiritual children. You see that? Those are the examples. Because it's easier for us to learn from the examples. And that's what Allah is doing over here, giving us an example. All of this. Now, this lamp lights itself, even if other lamp does not touch it. So, in the explanation of the Quran, historically, it says that when Imam Hussein was in Karbala and Imam Zainul Abidin was far away, when Imam Hussein was killed and martyred at the Karbala, his nur lit his son, which was far away, who was far away. What this does for us, remember this ayat has to be about us. Because when I'm reading this ayat, it needs to touch me. In history, if Imam done this, well, he was Imam and he was Imam's son. How would he do it for me? So what he's saying, Imam may be far away from you, physically. But when time comes, he will touch your heart and he will light your nur for you. Even though he may not be there physically. That's what Allah is explaining here. Now, this is the key word I said, nur upon nur, light upon light. and I said two things: Noor after Noor and Noor upon Noor. If you take the lamp and you take the other lamp which is not lit yet, and you can make two lamps equally lit. When you light this Noor, does this lamp have any less light? Or does this lamp have any more or less light? They're both exactly same. They're both giving light. Now you put both of those lamps on a table and look around in your room. Would you be able to tell me that this light on this side is from this lamp and this light on this side is from this lamp? You will not be able to tell. Meaning they both will be giving equal light and there will be no difference between those two lights. Even though it's coming from two different sources. Light upon light. Noor after Noor. Noor upon Noor and Noor after Noor. Imam after Imam.
Subhanallah, Subhanallah.
So what Azma was saying, if you understand this ayat, you will understand the concept of Ismaili Tariqa, which is there will always be an Imam present after another Imam. Father Imam, son Imam. An example is Ali, Hussain, Zainal Abidin, Muhammad Baqir, on and on, all the way to Shakari. There will always be Imam present from one Imam to the other. Always. Now, who will Allah guide to this light? Whom He wills. When does Allah will? Allah चाहता है कि सबको गाइड करे. Allah चाहता है कि सबको गाइड करे. So who will Allah will? Because if this was up to Allah, then हमको तो हाथ पे हाथ धर के बैठ जाना चाहिए. Why are we doing all this? When Allah will, He will guide me. I don't need to get up. No, Allah has given us a principle. In Surah Muhammad, ayat number 47:7. You help me, I will help you. This is the principle. If you want a nur, you come to me, and I will come to you and give you the nur. If you help Allah, He will help you. And He will make your foothold firm.
Subhanallah.
You see that? Condition is put on us. If you want Allah's light, you want Imam's light, come and I'll give you my light. Now take the same example at home. Doesn't matter how hungry you are. If you don't get up from your bed and your sofa or wherever you're sitting and go into the kitchen and take the food, it will not come to you. Doesn't matter how good of the food you have cooked, the food will not come to you unless you go to the kitchen and take the food. You must do your part first. We must do our part first for Allah to give us the nur of the Imam in us. That's the condition put on us. What we learned from this ayat today is, so far, that we must know the principle of the Quran. Otherwise, reading Quran will not help you any. Once we know the principle of the Quran, then you must also remember and know the cross references. So you may understand part like this: when Allah will. Then you have to know how does Allah will, and you have to know all those cross references. So you can say, okay, that's how Allah helps. So one of the words which we had recited last time, that you do not have to be Hafiz the Quran. What do you have to be?
आशिक कुरान.
And what was the verse?
आयत कुर्सी में मुझको जुमला कुरान याद है.
पूरा क्या है?
हाफिज कुरान नहीं, आशिक कुरान हूँ मैं. आया कुर्सी में मुझको जुमला कुरान याद है. So just the verse Ayah Kursi, if you learn the principles, you know the whole Quran because you are the lover of Quran. You don't need to be Hafiz. You don't have to learn the Quran. It's not an expectation that we need to become Hafiz. No.
Yeah. हाफिज कुरान नहीं मैं, आशिक कुरान हूँ मैं. So when you are the lover of the Quran, how will you read that Quran? That's how you will read the Quran. By knowing each line, each word, and then how to understand that with the principles and the keys. So if you know the keys and principles, it's easy for you to understand the Quran. Otherwise, anybody can read a newspaper. If you can read a newspaper, you can read a Quran. It's just a simple language. If you know English, Urdu, Gujarati, now there are in, I don't know, 52 different languages. Or if you know Arabic, that's it. Ji. So we're going to come to the...
There's one more thing. Allah says that I am a hidden treasure and I want it to be known, recognized. Look at this. This ayat is full of treasure, but for only those who really decode it. It's like looking for treasure. You're going on a hunt and you find where does it relate, how does it relate. And I would like to read the verse he mentioned because I love this verse. It's about the tree. The reference is 14 by 24. And it gives example of the tree, right? Why would Quran give example of such a tree? क्या तुम देखते नहीं हो कि अल्लाह ने कलमा तैयबा को किस चीज से मिसाल दी है? कलमा तैयबा इसमें आज़म. इसकी मिसाल ऐसी है जैसे एक अच्छी ज़ात का दरख्त जिसकी जड़ जमीन में गहरी हुई है और शाखें आसमान तक पहुंची हुई है. हर आन वो अपने रब के हुक्म से फल दे रहा है. ये मिसालें अल्लाह इसलिए देता है कि लोग इनसे सबक लें. It is truly, he says it, that I am giving these examples for the people to learn from it. Allah sets forth a parable, a godly word like a godly tree, whose root is firmly fixed and its branches to the heavens of its Lord. So Allah sets forth parables for man in order that they may receive admonition. And then 25 is it's giving the fruit all over the year. There is no tree in the world which would keep giving you fruit all over the year. There is in all the seasons. The tree is the similitude for Imam. So it's amazing how the Quran is teaching us about Ismaili Tariqa, but it's only for those who are willing to work for it. It's like a treasure hunt. Or for the lovers, if I love Imam in the Quran, I have to look for the meaning of it and then you can find it. Right?
Do we see how we went from 24:35 to 47:7 to 14:24? That's how you're supposed to read the Quran. So you may understand the entire Quran. Ji.